Hello! This is a compilation of all of the formerly Patreon exclusive behind the scenes videos that are no longer Patreon exclusive because the Patreon is closing down. Couple different reasons for that. You can read this post if you want to know more, but if you just want a too long didn't read version, here are the big three. Anyway, these videos are sort of like the bonus features you'd get on a DVD, but crammed into one video. There's deleted scenes, there's bloopers, there's editing timelines and breakdowns of how I did shit, and also a lot of gassing. I gas a lot. Not the farting kind, the talking kind. And maybe a little bit of the farting kind. These videos are made for the nichest possible audience imaginable, so you're probably not gonna get anything out of these. But if you're a Sparky superfan, you got the poster, you got the t-shirt, you got the body pillow, or you're someone who's just really interested in how video essays are made, for some reason, you might get something out of this. Maybe, at a push. Anyway, I'm gonna stop rambling now. There's timecodes in the description to skip to specific videos. Enjoy. Or don't. I've been doing a thing recently where when I go to record my videos as like a warm-up, I read random sentences from a generator. So I'm just going to do a couple of those now, just to warm myself up. The first one we got is pretty good. He found a leprechaun in his walnut shell. Okay. I only enjoy window shopping when the windows are transparent. That's funny. A quiet house is nice until you are ordered to stay in it for months. They're playing the piano while flying in the plane. There's a reason that roses have thorns. Care to elaborate, sir? He had unknowingly taken up sleepwalking as a nighttime hobby. Nancy decided to make the porta potty her home. Good for her. Hi everyone, hope you're doing well. You may have noticed, but I'm going to be doing something a little bit different for this BTS post. I know you all love the massive walls of text, but I think turning that massive wall of text into a video thing might make it a little bit more palatable, and it lets me show some examples more clearly. Don't expect top-tier editing, or even editing beyond the bare minimum. I have things to do with my time. I'm not going to spend 2 weeks editing the Breath of the Wild behind-the-scenes video that 2 people will watch. Sorry. But anyway, let's hop in. So, scripts, first of all. Script. That's the first thing. As you may have guessed from how long the video took to come out, the script for this one was a fucking dickhead. As is tradition, I spent a week or so writing a first draft, chucking out bits here and there. The open world game discussion thing at the start was originally way longer and way more negative, but I reined that in as I realised I didn't have much of a foot to stand on in that debate. I think Assassin's Creed Odyssey and Horizon Zero Dawn suck ass, but I just haven't played enough open world games to complain about that entire genre for anything longer than a quick jab or two. But all in all, there wasn't a lot of completely thrown away stuff for this script. The stuff that's in the final version is mostly stuff that was in the first version, just rearranged and rejigged and expanded on. The music section was expanded a bunch, the Red Dead 2 bit got added, the bit where I talk about forgetting the Citadel and Kilton and all that other stuff originally came before the bit where I talk about how many times I've tried to make this video, but that eventually got swapped around. All in all, I'd say that every single section of the video except the intro, which was basically perfect from the word go, got dramatically overhauled at some point or another. Some sections just the one time, some sections like 500 times. Getting COVID actually helped in this regard because it's the reason the script is as polished as it is. I couldn't record audio and I didn't have the energy to edit for 8 hours a day, so I sat and rewrote the script over and over and over again. That's why there's a dedicated climbing section. That's why there's an actual intro for the immersive world stuff. That's why I make an actual point about the music and don't just go, I like it, moving on, Iterating on stuff is so important. Even once I was deep in the editing trenches and had already recorded the audio, I was going back and adding stuff, like the Elden Ring bit or the ending. The entire ending was changed last minute. It was originally just this. There is a point! I'm not discovering a world for the first time, but I'm rediscovering it. I'm piecing together these memories. But I wasn't happy with it, so I went back and added in the thing about the bridge, which tied it all together. I think the main thing I've taken away from this project is that I should really just slow down and take my time to iterate on the stuff I'm not happy with. Because there's loads of videos I've made with stuff I know I could have improved if I just gave myself a little more time to get it right. I don't think there's anything in this video I'm not happy with. Maybe the monkey brain joke, but even then I think that pays off in the end. Explore! I'm spitting everywhere. I know it's rich to say I should take longer with my videos, like Christ, but I should. I have no reason to try and rush them. I don't have a fucking sponsor deadline or rent to pay. I don't want to toil away on the project endlessly. That's hell. That's what the Wii U and the Ryan video felt like by the end. But I don't want to rush stuff, because it's good enough. No, it's not. Fix it, you twat. Anyway, next on the agenda, complaining about, OBS. What? God knows I love to complain about Premiere. It's my hobby at this point, but Premiere mostly behaved itself for this one. Good job, Adobe, you did the bare fucking minimum. No, this time the problem was either OBS or my capture card, because some of the video files have audio that sounds like this. So fuck me, I guess. This happened when I was recording Ragnarok gameplay as well, but there, it wasn't much of an issue. I could just ignore those clips. Here, like this is the definitive mountain climb. I can't just not use this. So I had to go back and re-record new stuff, or use those clips, make the sound really quiet and add in my own sound design. It's so fucking stupid. I also had a problem, I think with the capture card, where the frame rate just did this sometimes. The game wasn't doing that. Lord knows Breath of the Wild runs like fucking shit, but not consistently at 15 FPS. I have no clue why it did that. It just stopped doing it at some point, but between this and the audio problems and the fact you can't turn music off in Breath of the Wild, which is what I usually do when recording games so my music and the game's music doesn't overlap, it made editing this one a little bit fucking annoying. Speaking of which, here's a timeline. That's all you get, savor it. But also, pacing is something I've been really conscious of recently. I know it's a film student buzzword, but it does matter. I'll give university one thing. It taught me to slow down my editing a bit. I have a tendency to want to pack in stuff as tightly as possible, and I've been trying recently to undo some of that. I go back and watch some of my older videos and the pacing is just awful. I don't let any jokes sit, there's no room to breathe, I feel like I'm running hurdles trying to keep up with the pace of everything. But in this video specifically, I was really conscious of letting every sentence sit for the right amount of time, and giving the sound design and the visuals time to breathe. This little bit at the end of the video, and yet this bridge is the highlight. But it is. That's the magic of Breath of the Wild congealed down into where I leave a big gap between this line and the next is something I never would have done before, but I think it's the reason that section works. I almost edited it like this, and yet this bridge is the highlight. But it is. That's the magic of Breath of the Wild congealed. And it's way worse because it doesn't give the moment time to breathe. It's meant to feel like a realization from both my perspective and anyone watching, but it doesn't feel like that if it's skimmed over that quickly. It just feels like another line in the video. But if you vary up the pace a little bit, haha, now the people's ears are perking up. Now they want to hear what you gotta say. Look at me go, professional editor over here. Sound design is another thing I've been working hard on making better in my videos. I used to hate doing anything sound related, like genuinely despise it, but in the last few years I've slowly started to come around to it, and now it's one of my favourite parts of the editing process. Sound editing, specifically, not mixing. I fucking hate mixing. A big part of why that is because I now have an audio library subscription, thanks to the support of you lot. Thanks. I don't use the music a whole lot, but having a good sound effect library is a fucking godsend for editing anything. Using YouTube for sound effects is a miserable experience. I type in punch sound effect and I get 500 videos where half of them are the same sound effect, the other half have a massive intro in front of a 2-second sound clip, or they're just horribly compressed, or they're a compilation of sound effects which is just useless. On Epidemic, I just type in punch sound effect and I get a big long list of punch sound effects. Scroll until I find one I like and then download it. Done. It's so easy. That's the reason why I've been way more creative with the sound in my videos in the last year or so, because I have this, and it gives me the freedom to play around with different goofy sound effects for stuff I'd mostly leave blank before. I think having good sound is just as important as good visuals. It's the one thing that most people won't bat an eye at if it's good, but if it's not there, or if it's shit, it just makes the video feel hollow or incomplete. That's also why I use way more game sound than I used to, because it gives the soundtrack so much more texture than it would have with just me and a music track. Right, last few things. Here's some folders. And some folder stats. Know you love those. If you're wondering how I do the wiggle effect for all the sketches, watch this After Effects tutorial. If you're wondering how I made this man disappear, it's content-aware fill, and some fiddling with clone stamp. If you're wondering how I made the thumbnail, it's this frame from the video, plugged into FaceApp, then put back into Photoshop to add a radial blur and mask it out and put some text in and so on. And finally, a little bonus thing, just for you lucky lot. I said in the video that this is the third time I've tried to make a video about Breath of the Wild, which is true. That's a true statement. What I didn't mention is that there is actually another time that I succeeded at making a video about Breath of the Wild. Back in 2017, a month after the game came out, I made my first ever game review video. It was extremely shit. It was in 480p because my internet couldn't handle uploading 1080p videos at that point. I didn't even really review the video game. I just kind of talked about it for 7 minutes and then gave it a 9.9 out of 10. It's very bad. It's been locked in the archive forever, but there's a little treat. I'm going to let you guys watch it. This is an exclusive. No leaking this to the press. This is just for you. I've linked it in the Patreon post. Please enjoy. And that's everything, I think. Hopefully you lot like this format a little bit more than just a wall of boring ass text. If you do, let me know. I might do this again in the future. I don't even know if you lot watch these. I hope you do. I put effort into making these, but I don't know if anyone cares. I don't blame you for caring. It's fucking behind the scenes for some fucking review videos. Thanks for watching, everyone, and supporting, as always. I really appreciate it. It's been 6 years, and I can barely remember any of it! I forgot it all! I'm fucking good at the evil villain cackles, god damn. Hi everyone, it's me again. How's the wife? How's the kids? I really liked how the last one of these turned out, and it seems like you lot did too, so I'm gonna do it again. This time for 2 of them. I'm gonna go Poinpy first, then The Witness, so if you just care about the latter, skip ahead to that, and if you just care about the editing parts, or the bloopers, or how massive my folders are, there's some timecodes in the description. And again, like last time, there isn't going to be any high effort editing, so feel free to just put this on in the background while you're doing something else. It's like an audiobook. I'm Stephen Fry. Welcome. Right, so I was already planning on doing a video about Poinpy or the Netflix game selection anyway after I finished up The Witness, but then The Witness derailed horribly and I needed a break, and Poinpy was the perfect break. It's a tiny little game, it's fresh in my mind so I can write the script real quick, it's not going to be very long, I can still get creative with it because I've never made a video about a mobile game before, at least not in a very long time, and yeah. It was all of those things. I find that the short videos are the ones I have the fondest memories working on, because I get them over and done with quick enough to not hit the I fucking despise this project and myself for picking it phase. When something is small and easy to manage, you don't get a ton of rewrites. You don't have to deal with Premiere Pro having a panic attack because there's too many files for it to cope with, and there's less pressure to make this the best video you can possibly make. Just shit it out. And I did. I wrote the script in 1 to 2 days with not a single cut paragraph in sight. I recorded all the live action stuff in a morning. I recorded the gameplay and edited as I went. The whole thing took a week and a bit, and it was fucking lovely. I originally played around with making this a vertical video for obvious reasons. Other than the odd Instagram ad or a funny meme, I have never edited a proper vertical video before. I've never touched TikTok, I've never uploaded a YouTube short before, at least not willingly. But I thought, hey, this could be a fun extra challenge to spice up this video. How hard could it be? And I was dead set on that idea until I came to shoot the live action stuff and realized, oh yeah, I can't shoot vertical video on this camera. I could have cropped it, but at that point it would have been the equivalent to 480p, and I'm not going to do that. I could have done a very jank bodge job solution to get the camera on its side. I'm not doing that. I could have pan and scanned. Definitely not doing that. Then I started thinking about all that nice Alto's Adventure and Terra Nil footage I just captured that would have to be presented like this. And I said, fuck it, 16:9 time. That was the right decision. Making it 16:9 gave me way more freedom with zooms and weird edits that I wouldn't have had if I kept it all in this tiny sliver of real estate. Also, vertical video sucks. It's shit. We have 2 eyes on the sides of our head, we don't have them vertically stacked, so why is all web video like this now? It's such a bad format. Recording the gameplay for this one was weird because, for obvious reasons, I couldn't use OBS. Didn't stop me from naming the folder that anyway. I briefly considered emulating the game on my computer, but I eventually settled on just recording it through the built-in Android screen recorder. I was fully expecting it to spit out a 30 FPS, 1080p, stuttery mess, but the footage I got from it was actually pretty good. 60 FPS, full resolution, a little bit stuttery here and there, and every video file had a slightly different frame rate for some reason, which was a bit weird, but it's serviceable. Anyway, editing time. And I've got a little treat for this one. Since I knew this wasn't going to be a very intense project for my computer to handle, I booted up OBS and recorded a couple hours of me editing. Most of this doesn't have the video feeds for some stupid reason, but you can see me think in real time. Oh, look at that mouse go. You're playing Devil May Cry. This game is all about getting that music's getting changed. Here's me trying to find some Devil May Cry gameplay to nick. Riveting stuff. There's a lot of fiddling around with music in this, listening to different songs and trying to find one that worked. And here is where I segue into my next topic. Bowen. God damn, that man is one talented motherfucker. I barely mentioned the music in the main video because I wanted to focus pretty much exclusively on the gameplay loop, but goddamn does this soundtrack slap very hard. Every song is great. They're all great. The space one? Holy shit. The reason this section of the game works as well as it does is 50% adrenaline, 50% this song. I'd just like to thank Bo for making a portfolio of music so good that I barely had to even think about using any other music. Pikaniku, Snipper Clips, Lovely Planet, Poinpy, solo stuff, wonderful music, all of it. So brilliant. Here's some folders. Here's some folder stats. The Ascension clip was done in After Effects, just bung on some filters until it looked sufficiently fucked. This bit wasn't done in After Effects, but the rule still applies. I realised while editing this project that you can actually nest audio, so if you want horribly compressed stuff without ruining someone's eardrums in the process, dump an audio distortion filter on it, fucking destroy it, ask woodland creature, then nest it and reduce the volume, and look at that, only slightly painful. The thumbnail was, fun, I wanted to recreate this joke from the video, but with me instead of some random guy, so I set up my camera in front of the green screen and just started doing some poses until I did one that felt right. Now, the noises, that was for my acting, right? I'm a professional when it comes to this sort of thing, so I can assure you that the screaming was essential for my creative process. And once I got one I liked, I screen capped it, put it in Photoshop, added the logo, which I had to cut up a little bit to make it more readable, then loads of outer glow on absolutely everything, save it as a PNG, open it up again, chromatic aberration, tilt shift with the whites boosted, then finish it off with a boost to the saturation. Follow those steps and you can have your very own religious Poinpy video thumbnail. Maybe not the screaming, you can skip that. There's a section in the Witness video where I lose my mind at how much time I've spent on this project, how I don't even like working on it anymore, and how much I've had to rewrite it. That was not a joke. I mean, it was exaggerated, but it wasn't a joke. This is easily the most revised script I've ever done. It's the longest I've ever spent working on a video, and it's also probably the most miserable I've been working on a video. This was one of the most difficult projects I've ever done, and there were a couple different reasons for that. The script was one of them. Good lord, did this take a long fucking time to get right. I started writing the script on March 31st. I finished my first draft on April 13th. And then I just kept rewriting, and rewriting, and rewriting, and rewriting. The bottom of this script is a graveyard of scrapped paragraphs. This document is 41 pages long, and over half of that is just cut stuff. There's a bit where I complain about the desert puzzles, there's a massive rant where the nice part of my brain tries to diffuse the situation, there's an old version of the live-action ending parody, which was actually the ending of the video. The patron credits were going to be on a bit of paper and everything. There was this one joke that I was determined to get in about the Witness being a nice stew with all the things I like that someone tipped way too much salt and pepper in. I never managed to find a spot for it, and I'm still annoyed about that. While the first half stayed pretty consistent from the first draft to the final, the second half, good lord, I'd say 3 full rewrites, where basically everything got rewritten. I think the only thing that survived every single cull was the opening paragraph. Everything else was different by the end. The first rewrite was because I'd accidentally built a straw man about something I'd completely misinterpreted from an interview. The second was to just generally make it less mean and make the introduction to the games are art section less naff. And the third was to completely overhaul the ending. The old version didn't have any stuff about the making of the video, it didn't have the scream, it went from Tunic to I Think I Want to Love It to The Looker, and then I wanted to do a really quick montage conclusion thing set to this song to round it out. Most of that got reincorporated in some way or another, but I changed it because I really didn't like how defeatist that ending felt. The final point was that The Looker has a good ending and The Witness doesn't, which feels like a weird note to end on, not just because I went from talking about the ending to a big conclusion point about the game as a whole, and then back to talking about the ending, but this time talking in the context of a different game, even though that's my final point for some reason, but also because that's the conclusion for a video that is supposedly about a game I hate and love in equal measure. Why am I ending on a point about how much it sucks? That doesn't make any sense. The real challenge of writing this one was trying to balance a lot of different things at once. Obviously, there's 2 very different viewpoints I'm trying to put across, but there's also trying to make the video stand out when one that's quite similar to it already exists. There's me still dealing with the feedback to the Overwatch video and thinking about how I'll be dragged through the mud by the loyal army John Blow has if this video blows up somehow. And there's also ethics. Ethics, you cry? You're making a game review that 200 people will see. You're not a news reporter. Why do you care about ethics? Well, ethics is a bit of a strong word. Maybe just kindness or empathy or something like that. But I was very conscious while writing this of the people who made the video game that I'm complaining about. It's extremely easy to shit all over something that you don't like, but it's extremely hard to do it in a way that doesn't insult the people that worked on it. The Witness is partially about how hard it was to make that game. It took 7 years, and as someone who just made a video with a section about how hard it was to make that video, it would be very hypocritical to then take a giant diarrhea shit all over this team's game. But at the same time, this is a video with hate in the title. This is a video about the quote-unquote worst game I've ever played. I need to be mean. I need to have an edge to what I'm saying. It kind of demands it. So how do you be mean while also not insulting the people that made it? Well, short answer, you can't. But I did try to rein myself in wherever possible. A lot of the rewrites were toning down the script or changing the language to be a bit more considerate. I kept the full-on rants to a minimum and tried to make them more funny than spiteful. I tried to talk about all the things I liked wherever I could. I made fun of Jonathon Blow a bunch, but he's a bit of a twat anyway. Making a negative video about an indie game is very different to making one about a giant commercial product. One of them was made by about 10 people, and the other one was made by a couple more than that. I feel far more comfortable shitting on this, where one decision is likely the result of a committee, rather than this, where one guy or girl thought, hey, this would be pretty cool, and now I'm waltzing in to tell them, no you fucking idiot, that's the worst idea I've heard in my entire life! Obviously, no one who made The Witness is actually going to watch this. I do not have a large enough audience for that, and even if I did, I doubt anyone who worked on it will be deliberately seeking out videos that shit on it. But I can't help but imagine that situation while I'm writing the script, while I'm recording it, while I'm editing it. I don't want to make someone feel like shit just for daring to make a video game. But trying to do that at the same time as trying to be funny, trying to make a point, trying to be concise, trying to be critical, trying to reincorporate that bit I wrote 3 revisions ago, it's hard. Did I do a good job? Probably not. But I think it's important to at least try. Another reason the script took as long as it did is because I am absolutely atrocious at research. I put it off for as long as I possibly can, and then I put it off for even longer than that. I write the script, talk about facts that I think are correct maybe, then research them a week later and realize, oh, fuck, that's not correct. And because by that point I've already written the paragraph with that in, and all the paragraphs after it, and they all precisely interlink, where one change spells the downfall of the entire fucking thing, I have to rewrite. Not before I don't look up the next fact I spew out without double-checking my sources, and the cycle continues. For an example, there's a bit in the video where I talk about all the research I've done. I've watched The Unbearable Now, I've read some Reddit threads, I read 2 of the most pretentious articles I have ever seen. I mentioned that I watched all the videos and listened to all the audio logs, and I didn't like any of them. You're not going to believe this, but at the time of writing, at the time of recording, I had neither watched all of the videos or listened to all of the audio logs. I am a giant tool! Thankfully, my assumption was correct and I didn't like 99% of them. But imagine if I had. I'd have had to have rewritten the whole fucking thing again. Why do I do this to myself? Anyway, writing this video was awful. I never want to write a video this long ever again. I thank the Lord that I never have to open that Google Doc for the rest of my life. Editing. This was about as bad. This is my computer. It's getting on a bit now. It's got 16 gigabytes of single channel RAM. I'm pretty sure it's quite slow. It's got an old ass HDD for file storage. The motherboard is so old, it doesn't have any M.2 slots. Most projects I throw at it can just about run on it. Every couple minutes it might stutter, too many effects and it will run like shit. After Effects runs like shit, but most of the stuff I throw at it, it can deal with. Now for some context, Adobe, so all of the Adobe apps, so Photoshop, Premiere, After Effects, has access to 11 of those 16 gigabytes. The rest is for system. This is one of the bits of gameplay I recorded for this video. It's 3.5 hours long, and it's 8 gigabytes. If you've ever edited before, alarm bells may be playing. I'm talking out of my arse here, but I think this is how it works. When Premiere gets to a bit in the video that requires that large ass file, which is quite often, it tries to load it into memory. Problem is, there's already a lot of other stuff in memory, so it has to get rid of all of that just to load in this massive file for what is probably 4 seconds of footage. Then we cut to the next clip, and oh dear, this file's 4 gigabytes. That's too much. So now Premiere's got to unload that massive 8 gigabyte file. Bear in mind this is running off a HDD, so it's very slow. And then, oh, that massive file is back. Let's load it back in, and you might start to see the issue. I did the opening, I did the symmetry stuff. The first 15 minutes of this project was the most hellish piece of editing I've ever done. I had the most miserable time editing this. Want to know the exact reason of why I dipped for a week to make the Poinpy video? It wasn't the script, it wasn't burnout, it wasn't needing a change of pace, it was this timeline. I could not cope with this anymore. Every 5 seconds the whole thing would stutter, or the audio would stop playing, or the video would stop playing, and then when I hit pause, it wouldn't pause for another 10 seconds because Premiere is a dog shit piece of software that would rather keep trying to play than just pause like I asked. I tried using proxies to make it run faster. If you don't know what a proxy is, it's a lower resolution version of a file that you can tell an editing software to make so it runs faster, mainly if you're working with 4K or 8K stuff. I'd never used proxies before, so I assumed lower resolution equals lower file size. But nope, they're actually bigger, so that didn't work. In the end, I had to put the big video in its own timeline, then cut it up into chunks, then render those out individually, then import those into the project. I did not go back and replace all the old clips with the new ones. That would have probably taken me a week, so whenever I went back to the first 15 minutes to change something, I still had to deal with the horrible stuttery mess, which was really, really fun. I need more RAM. Other than that small pickle, editing was alright. I had a pretty hard time finding music to use because 1, this video is 45 minutes long, oh my god, and 2, The Witness doesn't have a soundtrack. So I had absolutely nothing to pull from. 2 songs, that's it. I tried going minimalist and having just game audio. That was just miserable to sit through, so instead I pulled out my secret weapons. The Earthbound soundtrack, my beloved, Bowen, my piece on the side, and finally, Beethoven. Love that guy. Here's the timeline. If I zoom out all the way, my computer sounds like a jet engine. And here's some quick editing bits that I thought were pretty neat. I finally found out what this effect is called. It's not a wiggle, it's a boil, and I only discovered that because I paused on this frame in the last Noodle video. The opening shot was done in Premiere. I'm mentioning that because even I, the dumbass who edited it, thought I did it in After Effects. To the extent that when I went to recreate it for a bit at the end of the video, I opened up an old test After Effects file and was confused why there wasn't any effects to copy. Turns out I did it in Premiere, and not to be a self-absorbed twat, but looks pretty sick. The background isn't mine, I stole it. The shot where I scroll down the script isn't a recording of me scrolling, it's a screenshot. ShareX has a scrolling screenshot tool. It's a bit jank, but I've used it a bunch before. I'm bringing up this one though, because the dimensions of the screenshot were so massive, Premiere refused to import it. Which, I didn't even know Premiere had a limit, but you learn something new every day. This shot of the classroom took me a frankly disgusting amount of time to remove one guy from it. There's so many posters and complex things in the background that content-aware Phil just had no clue what to do with it, so I had to do it the slow way, manually pasting one part of the image to another bit, and so on. Oh, I hate clone stamping. Look at this number grid. These poor children are gonna have a real hard time on their GCSEs. And the award for best accidental edit I've ever done or will ever do in my entire life, this one zoom. Which I just did to fill some time, but I realized a couple days later, Oh shit! It's zooming out to show the reflection and how there's two sides to the same coin while I'm saying the line about that exact same thing! Jonathon Blow is a genius? Fuck that. Me. I'm the genius. Put me in time. Right, so the scream. As you can imagine, my neighbours might have called the police if at 3 PM on a Thursday, someone started screaming at the top of their lungs for 10 seconds straight. So I couldn't just turn the camera on and do a couple takes of me screaming. So I'm about to ruin the movie magic. Cover your ears if you don't want it ruined.
No, that looks stupid.
I didn't do the full scream on the green screen. Sorry. I recorded that separately under a very thick duvet with the door shut, and I only did it once. Then I just put it over the top, and no one was the wiser, especially the bobbies. If you want to do some cyberbullying, here's some of the weirdest screams any human being has ever done for your blackmail collection. Here's some alternative takes for the classroom bits.
Hello, you little shits! What did we learn today? So, hi, you little fuckers! What did we learn today? So, hi, you little fuckers! What did we learn today? So, hi, class! What did we learn today? So, hi, you little shits! What did we learn today? Nothing! 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 Fuck.
I only printed 2 of these, which meant I only had 2 shots to get it right. The first take was absolutely atrocious.
So why is it still going around my head like a tumble dryer?
But the second one was pretty good. I do play a pretty good insane person. I'm gonna put that on my CV. The thumbnail. I am really fucking proud of this. Hasn't really made a dent in the YouTube algorithm, but who cares? I like it. Looks fucking sick. Right, tutorial time. So it's this image, a line layer, then a couple screenshots cropped covered just one part of the line, and John, then a clipping mask for the whole lot, bung that all in a smart object, outer glow, then bung it all in a PNG and add a bunch of effects, chromatic aberration and iris blur, crank up the saturation, give the circle a bit of a glow, make me black and white, and just like that, you've made pure art. Mr. Maker would be proud. What else? Folders. Love me some folders. Look at these bad boys. Don't look at the file sizes, those are scary. And last thing, this image of John, which I just think is really, really, really funny. I love all the photos of him that make him look like a Silicon Valley genius, because he just looks like a very right-wing political commentator. There's also this channel, Blow Fan, who uploads stream highlights, and all the thumbnails use the same image, and it really just looks like a Ben Shapiro Poning a Lib compilation. Like, just look at them. Jonathon Blow has all the answers on climate change. No, he doesn't. Jonathon Blow has some very interesting takes about that dumbass tunnel Elon Musk made. Click for more. Jonathon Blow says that everybody is saying BS all the time. Twitter is bad. Thank you for the insight, John. I don't know, I just think this photo is really funny. Anyway, I think that's everything. Next up is going to be the Tears of the Kingdom video. I've been recording a lot of gameplay. I'm barely halfway through the game and I've already got 100 gigabytes. So I am fucked. No clue when that's going to be done. I might do an E3 video to fill in a gap. We'll see. Place your bets now for whether it's going to be done before the next Hoover review. I'm going to say no. And as always, thanks for the support everyone, and for watching. I really appreciate it.
Random sentence generator. Nonsense generator. Too long a stick woke the Prime Minister. That's a fun sentence. Lonely Henry is still not very coherent. The last sentence you saw is often pregnant. A classical composition is nothing at all. Everything and more tests the thesis that your theorem would unleash. Stupidity will take you to places you never expected not to visit. Colourful clay is always a pleasure. Gasoline sat down once more. That stolen figurine is running away! Hi everyone, hope you're doing well. We got 4 videos to talk about this time. There's a lot of ground to cover, so I'm gonna try and be quick. Try being the keyword. And again, this is more podcast than anything, so feel free to put it on in the background. And there's also timecodes, so you can jump around to the sections you find interesting, and skip the boring bits where I whinge incessantly about how hard writing a video game review is. I wanted this one to be timely. I'm almost always late to the party with my videos, but E3 has a very small window of relevance before no one cares anymore, so I knew I had to be quick. Also, I was going on holiday in a week, so it was either finish it this week, or, you know, don't. So with that in mind, I originally wanted to make a rapid-fire, here's a take about every single announcement from E3 2023 kind of video, you know, with a thumbnail like this. But then I realised I had way more that I wanted to say about the Volvo Showcase, and PlayStation, and Starfield, and there's a lot of stuff that I just didn't even want to talk about in the first place. So I said, screw that, let's do it old-fashioned. I really do like making these spur-of-the-moment videos. The Steam Deck one, the Poinpy one, these two. Limitations breed creativity. When you're on a big deadline that's rapidly approaching, your brain does some weird things to get it out the door, and usually, it works out pretty well. For example, the grinning at the camera bit was an idea I just randomly had when I woke up one morning. It's not even in the script. Originally, I was just gonna do a joke like this. Oh, yes. Yes. E3 time. Let's go. Right, so, E3... Which isn't even that funny, but I'd been watching a lot of Twin Peaks, which is a fucking great show, by the way, watch it. And there's a character in Twin Peaks who can creep you out just by staring down the barrel of the lens. And I thought, hey, I look pretty creepy. Inherently, let's do an opening where I just stare at the camera unexplained for 10 seconds. That'll be fun. It took me a lot of attempts to actually make it look unsettling. Like, that's kinda there. Nah, shit. But the last one, I just morphed my face like Jim Carrey, and I think that worked pretty well. The transitions. I didn't originally think I was gonna do all of these unique shots. I was just gonna do voiceover over some gameplay, a bit like the Devolver one. But again, benefits of making stuff on a deadline, you start to get really creative. So I just decided to go all in on these. The field one. This was really fun and sweaty. The original idea was to poke out of the wheat field itself and do a scream, and then dip back in. Close enough so that you could make out my face, but I'm a wimp, and I did not want to be crucified by a farmer, so instead I set up my camera on one side of a pretty big field, ran all the way around in the hot June weather, and hoped and prayed I was in the center of the frame. And also that no housewives on their afternoon walk wandered around the corner right as I screamed. What else? Oh yeah, the other fucking video I made.
Let's do this again. Hello? We're gonna do this one more time.
I think I did this all in like 3 days. I think I wrote the script on a Sunday, recorded everything on a Monday, and edited it all over the next 2 days. And considering the speed, I think it's alright. I wrote the whole AI joke without hearing what the AI-generated voice would sound like, so I was very happy when it spat out the worst sounding shit possible. But to be fair, the lines of dialogue I recorded for it are probably the main reason it sounds so shit.
Hello, I am Willem. This is my voice. I am real. Very real. My favourite food is spaghetti. My favourite movie is Top Gun Maverick, directed by Joseph Kosinski, and starring hot hunk Tom Cruise. Pineapples suck, but pineapple on pizza is rad. I haven't got writer's block, but the lawn needs mowing, so let's review this lawnmower.
Here's some folders, and some folder stats, and a timeline. If you're wondering what the labels mean, orange is a reaction, blue is a part of the press conference that I thought was pretty useful, and the magenta stuff at the end, I think that's Starfield. I think I wanted to differentiate between the Xbox conference and the Starfield stuff. Alright, moving on. I want to reveal something really quick. I don't think I like Tears of the Kingdom as much as I make out in this video. I still really, really love it. Like 5 stars, 10 out of 10, fucking masterpiece. The first 50 hours made me grin like an idiot, but I honestly came away from it feeling a little underwhelmed. But what the fuck? In the video you said it was so good! Yeah, I know. Here's the thing. I wrote probably 80% of the script before I'd even finished the game. Which is a great time-saving trick if, and only if, your opinion doesn't change halfway through. The first 50 hours of this game are pure magic. Probably the single best experience I've ever had playing a game. And the rest? It's alright. The brilliance of those first few hours are in how limitless the magic bag of tricks feels. It just keeps pulling out new ones, one after the other, after the other. Then you reach a point, and it's very sudden, where the magic bag stops. It just stops. The game stops handing you new tools. You start to realize all the Sky Islands look the same. It's the point where the game stops being this impossible feat of creativity and just becomes a video game. A very, very good video game, and a masterpiece video game, but not, pure magic. But I really liked this section of the video I wrote, and I really liked the ending, and I still wanted to get across how those first 50 hours made me feel. So how do I finish this thing? I've still got to redraft this conclusion. I've still got to write a bunch of paragraphs about music and shit. Do I pivot the video to have the end be about how underwhelming the back half is? No. How am I going to title that? Tears of the Kingdom is wonderful and kind of underwhelming, and I'm very happy and also a tad bit bummed. This is a video about how cool this game is. I want to get across how good that first 50 hours is. The last third only seems shit in comparison because the first 2/3 are so fucking good. We're not making this video again. But then how do I write this? How do I do this? How do I argue that this game lived up to all my expectations and more when I'm coming away from it a little bit underwhelmed? The answer is a hell of a lot of bashing my head against the wall, rewriting stuff, taking stuff out, putting it back in weeks later. The usual. There's a couple cut sections of the script where I just kind of rant about the game for an extended period of time, and I don't know why I even wrote these. I think I just needed to get it out of my system. But I eventually settled on this bit, where I'm like, oh yeah, Breath of the Wild's a bit shit as well! And that kind of ticked the box in my mind that needed to be filled. Moving on. There used to be a whole section right at the end about how well this game uses nostalgia to its advantage. I cut it because it didn't really fit, but I still really like that point. This is really a game about nostalgia, about how you remember this world. It's the point I made in the Breath of the Wild video. There is a magic to coming back to this place and seeing how it's changed.
Remember this thing? And this? Remember all these people? Well, now they're fucking dead. It's the same map, but it doesn't feel the same. You're literally exploring it back to front, or inverted, or from an entirely new perspective. The level design encourages you to take new routes that you might not have before. Remember the fish people place? This isn't a section about following a line anymore. It's now about deviating from it. I don't know. I just think that's really smart design. A lot of people shit on Tears of the Kingdom because it's a $70 game reusing the same map as its predecessor. So lazy! But there is a very good reason for it. It's literally designed around you being familiar with it. I wouldn't want another game like this, God no, but I think the way they did it is really smart. There aren't a lot of interesting edits in this one. I was editing for time, not for creativity. God no, God forbid. I did really enjoy doing this montage. That was fun. Oh, and the tank bit? That was added pretty last minute. It originally just ended at the pirate ship, but that felt like a kind of weak final note and didn't really flow into the next point very well. So I went and made a tank, bullied a bunch of people with it, and then added some funny sound effects of war on the top. Boom. Instant funny moments. The music bits were fun. I do like doing those. I just love this image of Rob on a piano. It has an aura, you know? Small correction though. I did say this was an oboe. That's not an oboe. An oboe makes this noise. Another example of me not researching something before I hit record. The word oboe sounds like it would make a deep noise. That's my excuse. Sue me. Back to the field again. I didn't originally plan to scream in this field. I brought my Steam Deck and my microphone with me. That's a point. I don't have a laptop or a Zoom or anything. So if I want to record anywhere that isn't my desk, I need to grab my Steam Deck, go into desktop mode, plug in a fucking adapter, plug in my USB extender cable, plug in my microphone, and then record it all in OBS. And then I need to like put the file on like Google Drive or something, because the way it works on Linux is different, so I can't just copy the file over. I don't know, it's stupid. Anyway, I forgot to bring the dongle thing. I brought everything else. I was walking down the street with a Steam Deck and a camera bag and a tripod and a fucking condenser microphone, but it was all for nothing because I forgot my shitty little dongle. Fuck's sake. I had to film this twice, which is not what I wanted to do. I wanted to shoot it and then leg it out of there because there are houses right next to this field and they might call the police if a man is screaming in a field about fucking Zelda. But I must be blind, because this is where I thought the center of the frame was. I'm really stupid. There was also a really big fly bothering me while I was shooting this. Just wanted to mention that. And here's some alternative versions of some sections in the final video. I'm so disappointed by the music. It's just not Zelda enough. Wrong! One of my favourite moments in Breath of the Wild was riding down the promenade while the piano notes washed over me and I just soaked in the atmosphere. One of my favourite moments in Tears of the Kingdom also involved the promenade, but this time, instead of riding my horse, I was driving my brand new SUV, and let me tell you, what a beast this thing is. This promenade one was originally a massive bit, like a big, chunky paragraph. I wanted to do like a talk-to-camera, green screen car commercial sort of thing, like wearing a suit and everything. But I didn't like how it flowed, and it really just stops the pacing for a good minute. And it's also very similar to the other car bit, which was only like 2 minutes prior. So I shrunk it down first. That's the version you just watched. And then that didn't work either, so I just integrated it into that first car gag. Problem solved. Here's some folders. And here is the obscene number of gigabytes of Tears of the Kingdom footage I now have. Just too many.
I actually made a spreadsheet, a fucking spreadsheet, just so I could label stuff more precisely and organize it all with different filters. Oh, I need some sky footage. What clips have sky footage? Oh, there we go. It's 300 clips. Most of them 8 minutes, but a lot of them are an hour long. It's just ridiculous. I'm never doing this again. And the thumbnail. Doing this logo took an eternity. I don't know why I even bothered. There isn't a version of this logo without the glow effect, so I had to remove and then recreate it. And working with like low opacity like paint is so fucking annoying. This foot's also copy pasted, by the way. This video was meant to take a week. As you can probably surmise, it didn't. I wanted another nice, short video to give me a break after the Zelda one. About 8 minutes. Go a little bit insane with the green screen stuff, maybe scream in another field, but nice and simple. But then it took me an eternity to write anything. And once I finally did, it was quite long. 5 pages long. So I basically just made a full video. That's cool. Originally the script was a lot shorter, but I just wasn't happy with it. There was a lot of stuff I skipped over for the sake of brevity, which worked for Poinpy, but doesn't for a game like Pikmin. I'm trying to get across why Pikmin is so good and so underappreciated, and I'm not talking about the level design or the horror? Are you kidding me? So I expanded it. I redrafted a ton of it to be more good and less bad. I moved some stuff around, like the very hairy men bit. That used to be right at the end of the video. Now it's about 10 minutes in. The cave section originally was so much longer, and ended with a joke that's in a completely different part of the video now. The caves are pretty neat. I've never played Pikmin 2, so I'd never experienced them, and at first glance, I was not a fan. As someone who mainly likes Pikmin for its immersive world design and atmosphere, having a bunch of bright blue manholes everywhere kind of ruins that a bit. It doesn't help that the first few are pretty bad, really short, overly simple, visually boring. But once you get 5, 10, 15 hours in, and you start getting caves that look like this, that play like this, that include these funny geezers, oh, now this is it. They're just a super condensed version of what makes Pikmin so much fun. Efficiency, hundreds of things to collect, dopamine. Each floor is another little puzzle box to solve, with switches and shortcuts and tons of gimmicks that keep it feeling fresh. Then you get to Engulfed Castle, and Engulfed Castle goes... Run. No, please, I have a family! But then I wrote the horror section, and the water wraith joke just fit in there so much better. So I trimmed out the cave section, because it was a bit shit anyway, rewrote it completely, and added in some stuff about the Dandori challenges, and that's what ended up in the final video. The ending section, where I kind of lose my mind for a minute or two, was mostly improv. I scripted a bit of it, but for the majority of it, I just turned on my camera and kind of went ham for 30 minutes. At one point, I really badly hit my elbow on the wall. That was fun. There were a couple bits that I had to cut as well, just to fit the song, so here's some of them.
I don't need a green screen to make my point. Buy it! Oh, would you like to buy a little copy of Pikmin 4 for the Nintendo Switch gaming system? It's on manual focus. Oh, fuck.
And here is some footage of me eating some pasta. Make a fan cam, I dare you. I did a metric shit ton of weird edits for this video. I went all in. I've been trying to simplify my style for a while now, just for efficiency's sake, so I can upload more fucking chances for the algorithm to notice me. But that is a little demoralizing, sanding off the energy and the creativity for the sake of, what, profit? I don't really like the Tears of the Kingdom video that much, and that's one of the reasons. It's really bland. Anyone could have made that. It's not me enough. So for the Pikmin video, I tried to do the inverse. Make a video that is so insane, you come out the other side thinking I'm a lunatic. And I think I succeeded. So I did a ton of weird edits. And now, I'm going to talk about some of them. Let's go. The box of cereal, that's modelled after the Apple Jacks box. I use that as a reference. The movie poster, I was just trying to imitate the classic, a bunch of characters in the center of the frame looking in different directions thing, before I realized that, oh, Pikmin doesn't have a lot of characters in it, so I just kind of had like 3 of them. But I am very proud of both of these. I think they look great. The Primark clothes are actually color-swapped Greg's merchandise. So, this stock photo, I have an unhealthy obsession with it. I found it a year ago, and I've been using it to brutally crush small rodents in the Discord server ever since. It's great fun. I don't know why they made it. Who, other than me, is gonna need this image? What website designer is gonna need a picture of a grinning man with left leg up in air ready to stomp? People were paid to take this. You can buy this. Has anyone ever? The Pucker Pie thumbnails at the end. You might have missed those in the chaos, but they are real. I didn't Photoshop that end screen. I actually uploaded 2 videos to YouTube with those thumbnails, and then put them on an end screen. It's not a proper video. It's just 20 straight minutes of a still of Ryan. I think there's a fart noise in there somewhere. But if you, for some reason, want to watch it, here you go. Here's a tip if you want to make text look super low res. Type the text out, make sure it's how you want it, then shrink it down, rasterize it, which basically compresses it to that size, then scale it back up. I'm so proud of these animated throws. I've never been able to get a throw to look right, and these are the best I've managed. It's 3 layers, the game box, the hand, and then the thumb that goes over the top. Put that all in the nest to move it as one, then when you want the game to fly out, you can have that be its own layer while the hand continues moving on its own. I curved those keyframes just right, gave it a little bit of a float at the end, added some motion blur on, and then the magic touch, the thing that brings it all together, the sound design. Take away the sound design and it's so flat and lifeless, but the second it's there, it's bouncy and energetic, and dare I say it, zany. Here is the best advice I can give anyone that edits anything. If you haven't got a sound library yet, get it. Get it now, get Pikmin 4 first, but then get the sound library. Having a catalogue of thousands of high quality sound effects is so helpful. It's borderline essential for me. YouTube is good if you want one very specific sound effect, but if you're just playing around trying to find something that fits, it is such a miserable experience. And while we're on the topic of sound, I'd just like to give a quick shout out to this geezer, Olimar12345. I used a lot of Pikmin music in this video, unsurprisingly, and if you know your Pikmin, then you know that these games use a lot of adaptive music that changes on the fly depending on if you're in combat, what time of day it is, how many Pikmin are working, and so on. Olimar12345 takes all these separated layers of music and turns them into full unofficial soundtracks, which is super helpful for me, so thank you. Folders! Folder stats. Timeline. Look at my slightly organized bins. Aren't you just so jealous? I think that's everything. If you've got any specific questions about how I did something, how I capture footage, how I'm so unbelievably epic, leave me a bloomin' comment and I'll answer it. Maybe. Next up, I'm in the immersive worlds mood again after playing a bunch of Pikmin 3 and 4, so I might try that again. I really want to do that O&M video, but I definitely want to get a better camera before that, so not today. I might do a Toy Story 3 video. The game, not the movie. I stand by the opinion that this is an underrated masterpiece, and barely anyone talks about it. So I might make a review about that. We'll see. Maybe a Pucker Pie tier list. Who knows? Oh, and Hoover Review 3 is still happening. Just give it some time. And, as always, thanks for watching, everyone. And for supporting. I really appreciate it. Oh, fucking hell. Hi everyone, your Lord and Saviour has returned to grace you with behind the scenes of slot. How'd they make the slot? How'd they package it? What are the ethical ramifications of slot production? A funny clip of me falling over in a field. All this and more in this video. This is probably the video I have the least to talk about. There just isn't a lot of fun production stuff for this video. Half of my time editing this one was spent making big piles of box art, which I can assure you is extremely boring and tedious and miserable. The only slightly interesting thing about this project to talk about is the script, which went through a couple different versions. I started working on this video originally as a game streaming review, like a semi-sequel to the Stadia video I did years ago. My computer could not run Starfield for shit, so I was testing out the Xbox streaming thing to see if that worked any better. It didn't. And since I already had a subscription to that, and a subscription to PS Plus, I thought, ooh, video idea! I could compare xCloud to the PS Plus streaming and GeForce Now and a couple others. That sounds cool. I decided against doing that because my internet speed is shit. More than enough for game streaming to work, supposedly, but if I did a whole video shit-talking game streaming and this was my internet speed, I would be ripped apart in the comments. So then I pivoted to doing a PS Plus versus Game Pass 2023 thing, with points awarded for different categories. This version of the video actually got quite far. The basic outline of the script is the same as the one I ended up using, it just talks about Game Pass a little bit more. I ended up pivoting back to a PS Plus video because 90% of my complaints were directed at PS Plus anyway. It might as well just be solely about it at that point. Here's an extra thing I couldn't squeeze into the video, this weird fish game that I found on PS Plus. Timeline, folders, thumbnail, a very big graphic that took me a very long time to make. There's so many layers, it was miserable. There are tons of fun edits to talk about for this video, so I'm just gonna rattle through a bunch of them. The intro, there's a couple things to mention here. The VHS effect is the Red Giant plugin that everyone fucking uses, no surprise there. The audio's got a low and a high pass filter on it to make it sound all tinny. The spinning stars in the background, that's just a photo that I'm zooming and slowly spinning into, nothing fancy. The party scene. There's a ton of layers here, just a ridiculous amount. Mario is 2 layers, 1 for his arm, 1 for his body. The room is 3 layers, the table, the sofa, and then the background. The door is a keyframe that moves it to the right, and then a basic 3D effect to make it swivel. And Idris was keyed out separately in After Effects and then imported in. This whole bit isn't too complicated, it's just a lot. It's just a lot of moving pieces. God, this section, fucking hell. Because the mouse drags an item down, I need to keep the mouse in the same proportional position as the game, right? So I've got to nest it to move them both at the same time. But I still need to have the mouse on screen when it isn't in a nest, so that means I've got to have a separate mouse layer that splits up whenever the mouse clicks on something. And I've got to have a nest for every single game that goes flying, and all these other games need to still be their own layers so I can have them fly away in the next section. So that's a lot of fucking layers. I did this in the most hacky, deranged way possible. There is 100% an easier way to do it, but screw it, this is the way I did it. Here's a tip. If you're animating a mouse and you want it to look realistic, give it a little bit of a curve as it moves. Real people don't move a mouse in a perfectly straight line. It's got to be a bit imperfect to feel real. It doesn't have to be a lot, but it makes all the difference. I tried a couple different things for the puppet on a string bit because I wasn't confident I'd be able to animate it and have it look good. My mum actually has a Pinocchio puppet, so I thought I could mask out the puppet maybe and keep the strings for me, or actually try some puppetry and just dub over it. In the end, I just animated it, and it wasn't nearly as hard as I thought it was going to be. The strings are just a PNG of a rope with a little bit of a blur on them. I set the anchor point way up high, did a little bit of an angle depending on where the hypothetical puppet master would be, and then I just animated it. Nothing fancy, but I think it looks pretty good. And finally, the king, which is a whole bunch of layers yet again. This bit where the game walked through the door was a nightmare, specifically because of the chandelier. The background without the door is a layer, then I've got two doors, a closed one and an open one, then I've got a layer with the chandelier and the sofa, and then you've got the game, which is actually two layers because it needs to walk behind it and then in front of the sofa. Wonder why these videos take so long? This is why. Folders, script, link in Patreon post, a thumbnail. Check this out. So if I'm lying like that, I need that arm there. Oh my god. I need one of them holding the mic. That leg like that. How does that look? But I also love it. Oh, fuck. Lethal Company was a really weird video to put together because there wasn't a lot to talk about. That isn't necessarily a bad thing. I struggle enough writing scripts when I've got a million things to say. Case in point, the Immersive Worlds video. One of the best videos I made last year was on a topic I barely had anything to say about. So I thought, hey, I could do that again. A nice, quick video about a game that surprised me. That's what this whole series is meant to be. And then it took me 3 weeks to write. The reason it took so long was because I didn't have a whole lot to pull from. Not just things to say, but experience of playing the game. At least initially. I'd only played about 7 hours of this game when I started writing it, which is enough to be able to have an opinion, obviously, but not enough to have a lot of confidence in that opinion. I'd seen a lot of cool stuff and a lot of really effective horror, but I wasn't sure if I'd just gotten really lucky with my footage. In the end, I reckon there are about 3 or 4 full versions of this script, where I went, yeah, that's final, and then rewrote it again. The intro stayed pretty consistent throughout all of them. It was mainly just the second half that got butchered to shit. I actually edited a bunch of the video that ended up being cut completely because the script changed, so here's some of that. It's so rare to see a co-op horror game that actually feels designed by a human being, and not a robot. That shouldn't be a compliment, but it sadly is. Go on Steam, filter by horror co-op, and you will see 100 games that all look the exact same. They've all got a realistic art style, but the dev teams aren't large enough to do a realistic art style well, so it just ends up looking bland, boring, and indistinguishable from everything else. Lethal Company rocks up and instantly shows every single one of these games how it's done, by having a fucking personality! It's not ultra-realistic, it doesn't have the biggest calf muscles in the gym, but how can you not swoon when it walks past? Just look at that custom bit-crunched art style that beautifully complements the psychological horror elements of the game. It's got that horror game design riz! You don't pick levels in a menu, you do it on a terminal. A crappy old IBM computer that you have to physically type commands into like it's the 1980s. The lobby isn't a big open HQ with ring toss and basketball and the Lord of the Rings trilogy on 4K Blu-ray. It's a ship. A cold, claustrophobic ship. After a long hard day of getting my neck snapped, mauled to death, eaten by a moth, I love coming back to my box. It's got everything. It's got a cupboard. I can lock the door for 30 seconds. It's so homely. I used a big Google Doc to keep track of all the funny moments from the footage, and then I crossed them off once I used them. That was very helpful. Would recommend. There's not a ton of editing things to talk about for this one. Here's the VHS bit without the VHS effect on it. Cool. And the shot at the end where the door slams? That's actually 3 separate shots. Whoa, I know, movie magic. You got me, keyed out on the green screen, a shot of the door slamming, and then a shot of me running. I just had a mask on the running clip that followed the door as it slammed, so it looks good. And yeah, that's it. Oh wait, no, folders! Thumbnail. I'm really proud of this thumbnail. I had absolutely no clue what to do for this video's thumbnail, but I waved my hands at my computer a bunch and this popped out. So that's pretty cool. I've got a bunch of deleted scenes for this one, so if you've always wanted to see a worse version of the Cyberpunk section, strap in, because you're about to have the best day of your life. First off, here's the original intro, before I shortened it down just to save some time. 2023 was an incredible year for games. And I didn't play any of them. Spider-Man 2, too expensive. Baldur's Gate 3, too long. Hogwarts Legacy, too much of this. There's a hell of a lot of games that I did not get around to, so for the sake of your sanity, if I don't talk about your favorite game of the year, just assume I didn't play it. But I did play some games, and now I'm gonna talk about them in a list format. But before we get onto the main event, let's round up a couple honorable mentions, and some dishonorable ones. Here's an extended section for Sons of the Forest, which ended up swapping places with Mario Wonder in the final video. Sons of the Forest is, by almost every metric imaginable, a terrible game. It's a sequel that does practically nothing to improve upon the original, it's not remotely scary, the storytelling is laughably shit. However, there is a unicycle. I don't know why they put a 200cc invincible unicycle into their fucking horror game. Seems a bit counterintuitive, but who cares? This is the most fun I've had playing anything this year. Me and Wheeler would scale a mountain, Skyrim style, get to the very top, and then race each other to the beach. The world is our oyster. Cannibals? What are they gonna do? Don their own unicycle? Actually, End Night, if you're watching, I would not recommend this to anyone who wants a survival horror experience, but if you're on the hunt for a new Tony Hawk game, this is perfect. The reason this isn't edited and got removed is because I just didn't have any good footage for it. I recorded some stuff for it months ago when we played it, but as you can see, it is unusable, especially when moving at high speed, which is, you know, the focal point of this section. I could have recorded some more, but Wheeler wasn't available, and even if he was, we wouldn't have gotten any good reactions anyway, so I just cut it. The next bit has spoilers for the Cyberpunk DLC, so skip to here if you haven't played it yet. This is so much closer to what the game was meant to be at launch. That doesn't mean they should get awards for it. No, Jeff, what are you doing? But it does mean that you should play it, because it's really good. Phantom Liberty especially is stellar, and is exactly the kind of thing the whole of Cyberpunk should have been. A much smaller scope, but with way more detail and love crammed into every single corner. The first hour or so is one of the most densely packed sections of a game I played this year. It's just non-stop quality. The animation work, the set pieces, the atmosphere, Jesus Christ! But it's the writing that really steals the show. The Witcher 3 already had some really impressive dialogue. Then Cyberpunk waddled in and wiped the floor with that, and now here comes Phantom Liberty to wipe the floor with the game that just wiped the floor. There's a mission where you play a game of roulette while talking to these twins. All you're doing is playing roulette. You're not in a life or death scenario, and yet it's one of the most tense and engrossing conversations in the entire game. There's a realism to every interaction you have in Phantom Liberty, from the most important to the least. It's not just good writing for a video game, it's just good writing, period. I rewrote the Cyberpunk bit so many times, and again, it was a problem caused by me writing stuff prematurely. The version I just played almost made it in, but it never clicked in a way I wanted it to. It's a bit too serious and formal, and I just really hate the "this isn't just good writing for a video game, it's just good writing" line. It's so cringe. The next bit is from the Alan Wake 2 section, so again, spoilers for that. Skip here if you don't want to be spoiled. Games this big and expensive and funded by giant conglomerates shouldn't be this weird. Usually someone up the chain of command will go, "No, you can't do an interactive musical number halfway through your fucking horror game. You can't self-insert yourself 3 fucking times. You can't make a shared universe where the one big piece of connective tissue is a janitor." But I'm so glad that that person was on permanent holiday, or asleep, or had a soul, because fuck. I wish more AAA games were like this. So if you've seen this part of the video before, you'll recognise the Tim Sweeney bit, which I repurposed for the new version. I don't think there's anything wrong with this old section, it was just the Alan Wake 2 section as a whole that needed a redo, and this was an unfortunate casualty of that. I didn't really explain why I liked the game in the original version, I kinda just brushed past that point, which is fine if it was like number 5 or something, but this is number 1. The new version of this paragraph is a lot longer and explains why I actually like the game, which is pretty important. I promised you a clip of me falling over in a field, and since you've all been waiting so patiently, you shall receive. Oh, fuck! Ow! Oh, fuck! Before you ask, yes, I'm fine. Yes, the camera is fine. Yes, I filmed 2 more takes after this. Here is the timeline. Here are some folders. Here is the thumbnail. Wait, enhance. Is that? No. I actually made a completely different thumbnail that's similar to the last 3 thumbnails I've done, but I didn't really like it, so I ended up going with this instead. This can be the exclusive Patreon thumbnail. It's much worse, but it's exclusive, so that means it's good. I think that's everything. If there's anything I missed that you're interested in, leave a comment and I'll get back to you, maybe. Next up, I don't know, I'm still sitting on the Immersive Worlds video, the Gaming Magazine's video, Who Review Free, so I might tick one of them off. Knuckle Sandwich came out a few months ago, might make a follow-up to my ancient video about the demo. Talking about Half-Life Alyx so much got me interested in making a full VR video, so I could do that. Just shit on the Apple Vision Pro for 20 minutes, that could be fun. Anyway, more videos will happen at some point. I don't know when, or what, or how, but they will happen. Just look forward to them. Pray at the foot of your bed every night. Please, Lord, give me fresh, sparky content. Even if it's fucking biscuits while playing Fortnite. Please! Thank you for watching, and a huge thanks, as always, for the support. It really means a lot. Now fuck off. Little creature on the sofa. What are you doing?
What are you doing?